It was a cold and quiet morning in the small English town of Wootton Bassett. The streets were nearly empty. A few people were standing near the main road, holding small flags. Their faces were serious. No one was talking much. Everyone had gathered. For one reason, to remember a fallen soldier. His name was Lance Corporal Matthew Harris. He had died at just 25 years old while serving his country in Afghanistan. Matthew was born and raised in this town. Everyone knew him. He was friendly, kind, and full of dreams. He had always wanted to serve in the army, even as a young boy. He believed in protecting others and doing what was right. Mother Julia Harris stood near the center of the crowd. That morning, she held a photo of her son in her hands. Her eyes were full of sadness, but she also looked proud. Matthew had given his life doing what he believed in. The town had planned a small remembrance ceremony. There were no big stage lights, no cameras, just neighbors, friends, and family. A local pastor began with a short prayer, and a young boy, Matthew's nephew, read a letter Matthew had written to his mother during his first year in the army. It said, "Dear Mom, I'm okay. Don't worry. I'm learning a lot and making friends. Sometimes it's hard, but I always remember what you told me. Be brave, be kind. I miss home, but I know I'm doing something good. Tell everyone I love them." People in the crowd began to wipe their eyes. Some turned their heads away, trying not to cry. The town was small, but the love they had for Matthew was big. As the trumpet played the final notes of the ceremony, something unexpected happened. A black car slowly drove up the road. It moved quietly, without sound, without flashing lights. No one had told the town that anyone else was coming. People looked around, confused. Was this part of the ceremony? The car stopped just near the front of the gathering. Slowly, the doors opened. From the back seat, two familiar figures stepped. Out it was Prince William and Princess Kate. Gasps filled the crowd. Mouths opened in surprise. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was a quiet village, not a big city. There was no royal event planned here. No newspapers, no press, no announcement. Yet here they were, the future king and queen. Walking down the quiet village street, they had come without any warning, and they had come without cameras. They came not as royals, but as people. Julia Harris stood frozen, her son's picture still in her hands. She had always admired the royal family. Her son had too. Matthew once told her, "If I ever meet Prince William, I'd thank him for being the kind of leader I'd want to follow." She never thought that moment would come in this way. Prince William walked forward slowly, his eyes calm, but full of emotion. Princess Kate walked beside him, holding a small bouquet of white flowers. He stopped in front of Julia and spoke in a soft, respectful voice. "May I stand with you for a moment?" he asked. Julia couldn't speak. She nodded. Her hands were shaking. Kate stepped forward and gently handed her the flowers. "These are from both of us," she said. "We came to honor your son. He was a true hero." Julia looked into her eyes. There were no words, only feelings. Her heart was heavy, but something in that moment felt peaceful. William looked at Matthew's photo. "This is him?" he asked. "Yes," Julia whispered. "He loved his country, loved people, and he looked up to you." William kneeled for a few seconds in front of the photo, closed his eyes, and placed a red poppy flower near it. The whole crowd stayed silent. No one moved. Even the wind seemed to stop. Kate looked around at the people gathered. She smiled gently at a group of children. One small girl, maybe 9 years old, whispered, "Mum, it's the real princess." William stood again and turned to the crowd. "You all loved him," he said, "and we came to stand with you, not as royals, but as humans. He made a difference, and we are grateful." One of the veterans in the crowd, an old man with medals on his coat, began to cry. "I've never seen this before," he said. "It came for him, for one of our own." For the next hour, William and Kate stayed in the village. They walked among the people, shook hands, and listened. They didn't give a big speech. They didn't try to take the moment for themselves. They simply gave what they had: presence, kindness, and respect. Kate knelt down to speak to Matthew's nephew, the same boy who read the letter. "Your uncle was very brave," she told him. "You should be proud. He loved you very much." The boy said nothing, but he hugged her tightly. When it was time to leave, William and Kate walked back to their car, slowly. The crowd didn't cheer, they didn't wave. Instead, they simply watched in silence. With tears in their eyes and hearts full of emotion, Julia stood holding the bouquet they gave her. She whispered softly, as if speaking to her son. "You did this, Matthew. You brought them here." As the car disappeared down the road, a local teacher standing nearby finally spoke. This was no royal show. This was something real. What made it powerful wasn't just who they were. It was how they came. Quiet. Unannounced. Honest. No gold, no cameras, no grand entrance. Just two people who understood the weight of grief, and who chose to walk into it with compassion. Everyone in the town would remember that day. Not just because William and Kate came, but because they came in the way that mattered most, with love, with care, and with silence that said more than any speech ever could. The surprising entrance of William and Kate didn't just shock the village, it healed it, and that healing would grow in the hearts of every person who stood there. Long after the flowers faded and the flags were folded away, the news spread fast. By the afternoon, everyone in the nearby towns had heard. Prince William and Princess Kate had quietly visited Wootton Bassett. No one had expected them, and no one would ever forget them. But something more powerful was happening than just royal news. People weren't just talking about who showed up. They were talking about why they came and how they acted. Julia Harris, the mother of fallen soldier Matthew Harris, still held the white flowers Kate had given her. She had placed them next to Matthew's photo on her small living room table. The petals were still fresh. Her hands trembled a little as she touched them. For the first time since she received the news of her son's death, she felt seen. By the cameras, not by the world, but by two people who truly cared. That evening, neighbors came to visit her. Many brought homemade food, hugs, and quiet support. No one spoke loudly. They didn't need to. The air was still filled with emotion from the morning. I don't think they came for attention. One elderly neighbor said gently, "I think they came for love." Local school teacher named Mr. Atwood gathered his class the next day. Adie told them about the surprise royal visit and about Matthew's sacrifice. One of the students raised his hand and asked, "Why did they come here?" "Sir, this is just a small town." Mr. Atwood paused before answering. "Because this small town raised a hero. And heroes deserve to be honored, no matter where they come from." Meanwhile, inside Buckingham Palace, there were no press statements or formal announcements made. William and Kate hadn't gone to Wootton Bassett to be seen. They had gone to stand beside the people who carried pain and to remind them they were not alone. But their quiet visit had touched more people than they knew. Later that week, letters began arriving at Julia's home. Some came from other military families, some from strangers who had seen photos shared by townspeople. One letter said, "Your son's story gave me strength. I lost my brother last year, and when I saw the way Prince William and Princess Kate stood with you, I cried. Thank you for sharing that moment." Another letter read, "I don't follow the royal family, but that day made me believe in kindness again." A surprising entrance that morning had done something beautiful. It had awakened a deep feeling across the country, reminder that respect and care still mattered. But there was one more moment, quiet and unrecorded, that no one knew about except Julia. The morning after the ceremony, just as the sun rose, there was a knock at her door. She opened it slowly, expecting maybe a neighbor. But there, standing with a kind smile and soft eyes, was a royal messenger. "I bring a letter, personally written by their royal highnesses," he said politely. Julia's hands shook as she accepted the envelope. She waited until she was alone, in her kitchen before opening it. The paper was thick, the handwriting neat and strong. It said, "Dear Mrs. Harris, We cannot fully express what it meant for us to be there with you yesterday. Your son's bravery, his kindness, and the love you carry for him moved us deeply.
Ow.
Though we came without announcement, please know we left with full hearts. We saw the man your son was through your eyes. Please know we are thinking of you always. With love and respect, William and Catherine. Julia sat still for a long time after reading it. Then, for the first time in months, she smiled through her tears. Across the country, people began sharing their own stories of loss, love, and remembrance. Veterans' homes received more visitors. Families wrote to each other. One young man who had been angry and distant since losing his father in war came home and hugged his mother. When she asked why, he simply said, "Because I saw how the prince treated that mother. I realized I still have mine." In many ways, the visit was not just a moment. It became a message. A week later, something unexpected happened. The mayor of Wootton Bassett announced that the village had been selected to receive a special recognition, a National Medal of Honor for community strength and service. When the medal was presented during a local ceremony, the mayor held up a photo of Julia, Matthew. In the moment William kneeled beside her son's picture, the whole town stood in silence again, remembering the deep emotion of that day. Local shops began placing small signs in their windows. "We remember children," painted poppies and placed them on school fences. Even the local pub had a new photo above its fireplace. William and Kate, walking hand in hand through the village road. It wasn't about royalty anymore. It was about humanity. It's about shared grief, about standing together. And then came another surprise. 2 weeks after their visit, Prince William requested a private meeting with several families who had lost loved ones in military service. No cameras, no press, just a room filled with pain and healing. One of the fathers, a quiet man named Paul, spoke during the gathering. "I never expected to see you here," he said. "But now that I have, I feel like I can breathe again." William nodded and replied simply, "You're not alone. We came to show that. And we will keep showing that." Back in Wootton Bassett, Julia walked past the small memorial near the church. It was now covered in flowers, letters, and candles. Children had drawn hearts and flags. One little note stuck out to her. It was written in shaky handwriting and said, "Dear Matthew, you are my hero. Didn't know you, but now I feel like I do.
Thank you.
Love, Lily, age 9. Julia took a deep breath. The pain was still there. It would never fully go away. But now it lived beside something else, hope. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "You did it, Matthew. You reminded the world to care." The town was the same. The roads hadn't changed. The houses still stood quietly. The hearts of the people had been touched forever. The surprising entrance of Prince William and Kate wasn't just about royalty walking into a small town. It was about compassion walking into sorrow. It was about kindness crossing borders of class, fame, and title. It was about two people stepping into pain and leaving behind something stronger than any speech could give. They came without warning. They left without asking for thanks. But their presence planted something that would keep growing for a very long time, and the tears they left behind weren't just tears of grief. They were tears of love, of healing, and of shared humanity. The quiet village of Wootton Bassett had changed, not in a loud or flashy way. The houses were still small, the streets still calm, but the hearts of the people had grown warmer. Something beautiful had happened, something no one had planned and no one could forget. Prince William and Princess Kate's visit was still talked about, but not like gossip or royal news. People spoke about it like a story they were part of, like a memory they could feel in their bones. The town had become a place where something special was shared between royalty and regular people. Kindness. Julia Harris, the mother of Lance Corporal Matthew Harris, was now known not just as a grieving mother, but as a symbol of strength and love. Many people came to her not for advice, but to sit with her, listen to her story, or simply hold her hand. She never spoke too much. She didn't need to. Her eyes told the story. Her smile told the rest. Sometimes she would sit in her garden, looking at the sky and softly say, "You're still doing it, Matthew." Even now, weeks turned into months, but the memory of that morning stayed strong. Schools continued to teach children about bravery, about serving others, and about how one act of kindness can change many lives. One day something new arrived in the mail. It was a letter from the palace. But this time, it wasn't a private note, it was a formal invitation. Julia was being invited to attend a royal remembrance event at Westminster Abbey. Her son's name, Matthew Harris, would be spoken alongside others who had died in service. But there was something more. Prince William and Princess Kate had requested to walk with her during the opening of the event. Julia cried when she read it, not because of the honor, but because her son's name was being remembered, not just in the town where he grew up, but across the country. And it had started with that quiet visit. The day of the event arrived. Julia wore a simple dark dress. She carried a photo of Matthew in her small black purse when she reached the Abbey. A royal assistant greeted her with care and kindness. But the moment that touched her most was when she saw Prince William and Kate waiting for her at the entrance. William walked over and gave her a gentle smile. "Thank you for coming," he said. Julia shook her head slowly. "Thank you for everything." Kate held her hand, and the three of them walked side by side down the long stone floor of the Abbey. Hundreds of people watched. The cameras were now there, yes, but no one was looking at the royal clothes or the famous faces. They were watching the connection, the realness, a story that had started in a small town and had grown into something much bigger. During the ceremony, Matthew's name was read out. A soft light filled the church. Julia closed her eyes and whispered, "You're still here." After the event, something happened that no one expected. William and Kate asked Julia if she would speak for a few minutes to a small group of military families. At first, Julia said no. She didn't feel strong enough. She didn't feel like a speaker. But William said something that changed her mind. "You don't need to speak perfectly," he told her. "You just need to speak from the heart." That's what people remember. And so she did. She stood in front of the small group, holding Matthew's photo in her hands. Her voice was soft, but steady. "My son was proud to serve," she said. "He believed in standing for something good. When he left, I was scared. But I never thought he wouldn't come back. I still miss him every day." But the day Prince William and Princess Kate came to our village, that was the day I felt I wasn't alone anymore. Many in the group cried. Some nodded slowly. Others held on to the hands of their loved ones. It wasn't a speech full of big words or stories. It was honest. It was real. It stayed in people's hearts. After that event, Julia was invited to speak again and again, not on television, but in community centers, schools, and military gatherings. She became a voice, not just for her son, but for all the mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters who had loved and lost. Her simple story, touched by the kindness of two royals, became a light in many dark places. Meanwhile, Prince William and Princess Kate continued visiting families quietly. Sometimes it was in person. Sometimes it was by letter. But their promise remained strong. No sacrifice would be forgotten. They knew they could not take away the pain of loss. But they believed they could stand beside it, honor it, and remind people that their stories mattered. In Wootton Bassett, a new bench was placed near the church. It had a small plaque. It said, "In honor of all who serve and the kindness that heals us." People often sat there in silence. Some cried, some smiled, and some just watched the sky. One spring afternoon, a young woman and her daughter came to the bench. The little girl asked, "Ma'am, is this where the prince came?" Her mother nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. He came to say thank you." The girl thought for a moment and said, "That's nice. I want to say thank you too." She took out a small flower from her pocket and placed it near the bench. In that moment, the story lived on, not in headlines, not in history books, but in hearts. The surprising entrance of Prince William and Kate had done something far more powerful than anyone expected. They didn't just visit, They didn't just show respect. They gave people hope. They reminded the world what true honor looks like, not in crowns or castles, but in quiet acts of care. Their visit turned a small village into a place of healing. Their words turned pain into strength. And their silence that day, their humble presence, spoke louder than anything else. Even now, people talk about it, not with excitement, but with warmth. They came for us, one local man still says. And they left something behind that we'll never forget. And Julia, she still sits in her garden sometimes, looking at the sky, still whispering to her son. "You're still doing it, Matthew," she says. "Your story's still helping others." Deep down, she knows his story will never end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to feel hope today, at the world. Remember that even one quiet moment, one surprising entrance can bring healing, unity, and love. Like, comment, and follow for more real, emotional stories that stay in your heart forever.